Hi, and welcome back to Wilkie Wellness. Today's video, I want to continue telling the story of my diagnosis. So where I left off, it was spring of 2018. I had had some health issues that put me in the hospital, and just doctors didn't know what was wrong with me. So after getting out of the hospital and being on steroids to help all of my health conditions at the time, I sought a second opinion. So I went to see another gastro, which of course they did a colonoscopy on me again, and this time the biopsies came back as chronic instead of acute. So that would be indicative of some kind of deeper underlying condition, a genetic one more than likely. So they had to do some blood work and some tests and send it off to see what kind of condition I have. So ultimately, after all the tests were sent off and the results had come back, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. Now, they diagnosed me with that instead of Crohn's because in my diagnosis, my colon was the main part that had the ulcers. Typically with Crohn's, to my understanding, you see ulcers more throughout the entire body and the whole digestive system. Since mine stayed in the large intestine, it was deemed as ulcerative colitis. So once I got diagnosed, I got put on a pill. I said it was a horse pill. It was big, and I had to take it three of them 3 times a day. That was a lot to keep up with, especially at my age, taking all that medication every day. So eventually my doctor told me, because of my diagnosis and that I had lost a lot of weight in the process. I lost about 20 pounds without even trying because I couldn't maintain nutrition. So because of that, because I had all the ulcers that past spring, because I had some other symptoms of it as well, they recommended that I start a biologic. So I first started on Remicade. Now, initially Remicade was great. It got me off the steroids, which, hallelujah, that's wonderful. But after being on it for a while, it seemed like the effects of it weren't as strong. So my symptoms started to come back, especially under times of stress. Stress seems to be a big trigger for me. So then I swapped to Stelara. Stelara I loved. Stelara was a medication that I actually gave myself the shot. While I was on that, I had no issues whatsoever. And then most recently, I've swapped to Entyvio. Now, along with the medications, also came diet changes. When I was originally told about my diagnosis, I didn't know what that expected. Nobody in my family had that before, and so it was completely new to me. So I had to rely on the doctors and the medical team a lot to inform me. When asked about dietary needs for this, I was told I had to do an elimination diet. So I eliminated gluten and I eliminated dairy and fried foods. So for me, when I brought back the gluten into my diet, it was fine. My stomach was okay. My digestive system worked well. But when I brought the dairy and the fried foods back in, no, those were automatic triggers. So as you can imagine, being 24, 25 and having to make that adjustment to a completely new diet, getting rid of all dairy. I loved milk. I would drink a glass of milk every morning. Couldn't do that anymore. I loved Chick-fil-A, the chicken nuggets and chicken sandwich. Oh, can't have those anymore, automatically taken out. It was a big change, And at the time too, in 2018, they were starting to become more and more of the dairy-free cheeses and the dairy-free foods that you can find in stores nowadays. But there wasn't a lot of them, not like today's day. So I really was limited in choices. You know, it was a shocker, of course, and definitely a life change. But one that, looking back on it, I'm thankful for, because I definitely wouldn't have made those health changes on my own, and I wouldn't be where I'm at today without that diagnosis. So even though it was a little bit hard to navigate at first, now being 5 years into the diagnosis, I can definitely say it was a blessing in disguise to have that UC, that ulcerative colitis, be my diagnosis. And of course, one thing that people that don't have this disease don't really understand fully is every day looks different. Even when you're on medications, even when you're controlling your diet, each day could be a completely different story. You can feel fine one day and feel terrible the next. So just, the reality is, it is a hard disease to cope with, and it's hard to navigate, but there are resources out there, and I hope to be a resource for those who might be newly diagnosed that have no clue where to go, kind of like I was back 5 years ago. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe this, so that way you can see my other videos posted each week. And I cannot wait to continue to share more of my story.